because even like playing music, you would just hear someone play or you'd watch and you just say someone believes, like
Yes.
they really believe they're a rock star, or they really, and that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing because you
Yes.
need that confidence.
Well, you need to be confident in yourself. If you're not going to root for yourself, who's going to root for you?
Exactly, right? So if you don't think you're a rock star, then who the fuck is going to think you're a rock star?
Exactly.
So when I saw the pictures, I was like, she thinks she's a rock star. This is awesome. I like that.
I'm a fucking rock star.
You know what I'm saying? Like I felt that. Alex,
Hi.
hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm happy you're here.
I thank you for inviting me because I'm very delighted to be here.
Well, it was fun. You know, just even I think we started with a bunch of text messages going back and forth through Instagram.
Yes, yes. You're like, oh, hey, what's your story, more or less? And I was like, I just unloaded onto you. I'm like, listen, this is what I'm going through. And you're like, oh, okay, interesting.
I remember I was on a flight and I was
Yes.
thinking to myself, how am I going to tell her that I have to cut this conversation, or like I'm literally going on a flight or something was happening, but I had to let go.
You're like, I don't want to be rude. I'm going to fly. I'm like, oh yeah, please don't worry about it.
I'm like, she's probably thinks I'm just saying,
Nah.
fuck, I don't want to talk to her anymore.
It's okay.
Well, look, I'm really happy you're here. There was a lot of stuff that went on in that text message.
Yeah.
And even just back and forth trying to organize, the time, I always found it was like just fun, even having those text messages going back and forth. And I remember you saying there was a lot of, we were just talking about some stuff that had happened in your life. And I found it interesting. I thought it'd be something that, a lot of people can probably resonate with.
I think so. I think a lot more people can relate than they let believe.
Yeah.
I believe.
And I resonated with it.
Absolutely. I just found out this morning.
Yeah, so to me, it's definitely something that I think is helpful. And, instead of me kind of giving away everything, maybe you can do a little on your end of like what you're up to right now and what you want to talk about, really.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, I worked in the fashion industry for 16 years. I was a designer, and I just came to a point, I think, post-pandemic, just a lot of things happened. And, the market, the industry changed a lot. And I think that I ended up with so much work at some point. I didn't even realize that amount of work that that was harboring, that I was, that I was carrying around. And I just burnt myself out. And I was burnt out for a few months. And my friends kind of pushed me to like, I think you need to go see your doctor. I think you need to take some time off. Mm-hmm. And by the time I did that, I took some time off, and I was off for burnout for like 7 months. And it took me many months to like feel somewhat normal.
Yeah.
And I didn't really show it much on social media, although I posted less, but like I tried to do things that made me more happy. So if I had photographers who reached out for photo shoots and it was like easily done, like I would never make my life complicated. But if I had more photo shoots, I did them because it was therapeutic for me. It was me finding ways of being more Alex.
Yeah.
And, I didn't talk about it much on social media because I felt awkward talking about it. I didn't know how to talk about it. And I don't like to expose like all the facets of my life on social media.
Yeah.
Like I rarely expose my daughter. You probably noticed.
Yeah.
I even very rarely expose my friendships now and my relationships. I focus more on, content creation, artist Alex, in all the art that I like to create visually and all that stuff more. So I didn't really know how to. I talked about it on a few posts, and only the people who read it reached out to me and be like, because it was a long post. I don't usually post long captions. Yeah. And those few times, some people did tell me, hey, like, I'm really happy you shared this because I feel the same way. I'm going through the same thing. I just took the summer off. I had no choice. I was burnt out. I was like, okay. And I would tell those people, like, it'll be okay. Like, but it took me months to be okay.
Well, I think there's so many things that you said in there. One that it kind of helped you realize a lot of things about yourself and find kind of some new road that it sounds like you're working on right now, like as an art perspective.
Yes.
So what is it that you're doing right now? And then maybe we'll dive in so people can understand, who's listening, the context of where you are today and then, where you were maybe a while back.
So kind of domino effect. As I was, I guess, more available, I landed more photography gigs, you could say, like
as a photographer.
Sorry, as a model.
Okay, as a model. Okay.
But it's all in the name of art, right? I don't think I did much commercial. I did mostly like it was more for fun.
Yeah.
And I did. So then I I spent more time with this photographer in Brockville that I'm now like super besties with. Her name is Leona. She runs Vertical Productions in Brockville,
Okay.
2 hours away. But we ended up becoming great friends, and I became more or less like her brand ambassador, her studio ambassador. So
Okay.
now, ever since I was more available, I would like drive in for either a day or two into Brockville, and I would shoot with her all her new sets. And then she'd use my photos for. So this was a bit more of like a semi-personal but semi-commercial. So
Yeah.
I would start doing that with her, and it kind of opened new doors to other things. We did so much photography. We did so many photo shoots, and she advertises with my photos, and like on the other hand, people are seeing my photos and they're like, oh my God, you're doing amazing work. But it's thanks to the fact, I guess, that like I needed to do more Alex things that
Yeah.
we got into that connection, and this opened more doors for me in a way.
Yeah.
So I mean, I did a lot of like modeling, these creative shots, these creative things. And I mean, into this, I started like looking up online and looking up at things. And I have a heavy like graphic design background from
Yeah.
the fashion industry, but like I have a very heavy on graphics. It was also always something I excelled at because I was always a painter and a drawer, an illustrator. So I started. Now I'm doing a little bit of graphic design work.
Okay.
Some digital products online that I sell online. I started doing that recently, but more into like that type of art and less
Yeah.
into the fashion.
Okay. So, I'm thinking the first time you got a call to come and do pictures and be a model, was that something you had ever done in the past?
Yes.
Okay. So you felt comfortable with the whole process?
Yes.
Okay. So if we dive back into like now you had said you had touched upon all that stuff when you were a kid or when you were younger, what's kind of like the journey in modeling?
Listen, I'm technically not like a model. Like I'm short, I'm curvy. It was more like I've always had a big ease in front of the camera. Always had a big ease. This is from day one. But I was looking back and I was very young. I don't remember what was the point of this, but maybe it was 5 or 6. And my parents had signed me up to this course where you learn how to walk on the catwalk, and
Okay.
I think it was, I forgot what it's called, but it's like I did like a fashion show.
Okay.
And I learned how to, I guess, pose, or maybe
Do you remember like how you felt like as a kid?
I remember partially, and I have photos. Like I'm not sure what the point was. Maybe it was for fun. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Like, but I do know that I learned early on maybe how to pose for photos and
Okay.
how to, or maybe because I had a knack for it. Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was a confidence maybe.
This was like late 80s, early 90s, right? So I mean, like I was 5, 6. I'm not even sure. I don't even think my brother was born yet. So it may have been even before the 90s. Like I can't remember, but I remember seeing photos. I remember I was strutting down the catwalk. I remember there's a photo of me going like this to the crowd.
You were totally ready. Like
So maybe,
30 years later.
So maybe it's just something that I
Yeah.
had, and then as I grew, so as I grew into college, I was a fashion design student. Obviously, I was not a model at that point, but I had friends who were either models, and I had a friend who left fashion design to go into makeup artistry.
Okay.
And he goes, I need you to be my model because you have a really good face for it. And I ended up learning a lot about makeup artistry because I was always modeling for him.
Okay.
Then we started taking photos for his portfolio.
Okay.
Then I started getting very comfortable in front of the camera. I was maybe 18, 19, 20. And then this opened like a big door for me.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this is fun. And then like I would work at that point. I was young, but I would work in makeup back then while I
Okay.
was in school.
Okay.
And I was doing, and I did like, we did fashion shows at the casino, and I was very young, and I was ruthless. I would, call up these makeup artists. Like there was no social media. I would like call
I
this
was
one.
ruthless. I love it.
I used to call this one girl I knew at Mac, and I'm like, I need a bunch of like makeup artists for a show at the casino. And then she gave me a list of numbers. I would just call them. You didn't email
Yeah.
people. You just called them. Hey, I'm this so and so. I'm organizing a fashion show at the casino for this, blah, blah. We need makeup artists. This is our budget. And like I had all these girls come, like the makeup artists. And
So was that like the introduction for you into like kind of the business part of it?
I think so.
And then so what happened after?
Then at some point, what happened? I met my ex-husband.
I see the smile coming
Yeah.
out. Oh,
Yeah,
good
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah,
Good thoughts.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
do you want to dive into that?
Well, I mean, listen, it was, when you think that everything revolves around love, if I could tell the 21-year-old me, focus on you and your career, don't focus on love. But
Okay. So it's kind of funny, like, why focus, like, why such a shift? Like, because I could understand it, especially, like, I was divorced too,
Okay.
so I understand that element of, like, focus on this. But I also see some good parts of it too, right? So, like, do you feel like Like, how do you feel about the whole situation? I guess I have an idea, but
Well, listen, I gave too much, way too many years, energy, my skills. I gave everything away to somebody who was ungrateful and who actually always saw me as a threat. So if he could dumb me down, if he could prevent me from spreading my wings, then he would look good.
okay,
Because then I would look better than him. So there was like 10 years of that.
okay,
Every time I would want to, because every time I had all these ideas and I'm very like skillful and I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that.
yeah,
I entered a macaron contest. I made these amazing macarons, but then he never supported anything I made. So anything I did. So it only flourished after I left
yeah.
and I decided, oh my God, like,
You found yourself.
yeah, I found myself, but it was still a long process after I left for me to find myself.
How hard was it for you to finally make that decision to say, think it's done, knowing that it's been so long, right? You had said what, a decade?
Yeah.
That's fucking like a long time. So
Yeah.
what there's like, what was that road to making that decision? Because that's kind of like, it sounds like the first step to finding Alex, like the Alex that you are today.
Yeah, to refining
To
myself.
refining yourself. It's kind of like a rebirth, right?
Yeah, a huge rebirth, absolutely.
So what happened exactly? Do you, like, what were the course of events that ended up kind of finally
Listen,
making you pull that trigger in a sense?
I wish I would have done it before. I didn't have enough confidence. And this is something that I would always say, like, to a young woman, like, believe yourself. Don't believe if there's this narcissist telling you that you can't make it without him, that you're a clown because you wear, like, green fur, or because your hair is pink, or because you wear red lipstick, or, that you look like an idiot. Like, not to listen to anybody else, like, to believe in yourself. And it was only when I had my daughter and I was a baby, and I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I never really dived down a lot. But when you're married to your abuser and then there's a baby in the picture, that's what I said. No more. There's no, can I swear?
Say whatever the fuck
There's
you want.
no fucking way
Yeah.
I am bringing up a child in this world with this example of a relationship in between the father and the mother.
Yeah.
And it was therapy that, in a way, convinced me that being a single mother or being alone but strong and happy is a way better example than staying in a marriage that's not working
Yeah.
and being abused and then showing that as an example to your daughter.
Look, I'm from the perspective, obviously, the guy perspective in the relationship, but I couldn't agree with you more. Like, there is a viewpoint of how life, I feel, it's like seeing my daughter, she's young, she's 16 months, but she sees and she hears everything, right? So
Yeah.
the attitude in the house, the way you speak to your girlfriend, like the way I speak to my girlfriend or the way my girlfriend would speak to me, like, that's going to resonate.
100%.
And so, for us, that's one thing that we kind of always kind of kept the promise to each other, is that always be civil. Like, even if you could disagree, you could do something, but try to be as civil as possible. And even for me, I know that the day that my daughter was born, it changed my perspective too about the respect in the relationship a little more. Like, maybe I didn't realize I said certain things or she said certain things to me, and you realize there is a level of respect you have to have for that person, or else it's you don't want that to be the symbol of what a relationship could be, or who your dad is, or who your mom is, and it's going to resonate. Everything resonates with a kid. Like, they see something and it's going to have an impact, good or bad.
Well, I mean, the child's brain is like such a sponge, and the first, what did I hear? The first 5 or 6 years, they're basically like in theta waves. They're basically always in hypnosis. They absorb everything.
Yeah.
So imagine that you and your spouse are the first examples of what a relationship is supposed to be, and a safe relationship, a loving home. And in that safe relationship, it's the dad's always yelling at the mom's always yelling at the dad. What is she going to recreate?
Yeah.
As soon as she gets older, she's going to go into chaotic relationships.
Yeah, and stress too. I find another thing too is that there's a level of stress that it's an energy that's getting sent through the house.
Yeah.
Like, when there's a stressful house, no matter what, you can try as much as you want, you're going to be like a stressed out kid. Like, that's an opinion. Obviously, there's no fact to what I'm saying, but
I'm pretty sure.
well, I feel like there's a connection to it. Like, but I'm not going to quote and pretend I'm some doctor, but it's just the idea that when you're surrounded by stress, chances are you'll be stressed. And so, like, even that's one thing that we noticed, like, in the house, like, there's certain areas of the house that maybe there's levels of stress. Like, how can we diminish this? How can we remove that? How can are we noticing that there's a stress coming in, and not always for just the kids' benefit, but for your own benefit?
Absolutely.
Because if you're shit, it doesn't matter, right? Like if you're feeling like shit, or if you're down, like you were saying, and you were hitting kind of a wall with your ex-husband, it's going to have an impact on even how you're going to treat your kid, no matter what.
Absolutely.
So what was it for you at that point that said, okay, I've known this now? You said,
Yeah.
the kid
And
is here.
I knew it for a long time. Even when we got married, I knew it, and I still went along with it because everybody's doing it, and
Funny thing, everybody's doing it.
everybody's
so we have to do
doing it, and everybody's happy for you, and you're like, I guess this is what I have to do, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so what happened after? So you made the decision. You said, I'm going to move on. I'm changing. What were your initial like feelings and thoughts of now being on your own as a single mom?
Stressful, but ready. Once I was ready, I was like very determined. There
Okay.
was no way that I was gonna go back. There was no way that we were gonna try to reconcile. It was done.
Yeah.
And stressful, but I told myself, if I want to be a better version of myself, if I want to get to one of my best versions, I need to start by this.
How did you start changing the narrative? How did you start reframing this new world?
I started telling myself that if I want better for myself, I have to give myself better. I have to make choices. Because you don't just keep doing the same thing all over and over again all the time, and then you think that the result's going to be different. They're always going to be the same.
Yeah.
So then you have to step outside of your comfort zone, and that's really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's having the confidence to step out of your comfort zone, not knowing what's there, but trusting that the universe has your back. And that was really hard, but I did it. I remember my husband was saying, "Oh, you don't." I stayed at a job maybe longer than I should. I wasn't paid that much, but I kept it because it was convenient for him.
Yeah.
Because he knew that if I went to get a higher position, I would travel. He didn't want me to travel. I would get paid more money. I would be probably in more meetings, and then I would, be like I would shine
independent
too.
or
I already physically was already shining too much. He needed the spotlight. So could you imagine professionally as well?
Yeah.
So I stayed in this one place long enough, like maybe a bit too long, and I remember telling myself, he goes, "Oh, you don't make that much money, you can't survive on your own." He was trying to. I said, "Don't worry about it, I'll be fine. Don't worry about it, I'll be fine." And he was trying to violin. No, it's okay, I'll be fine, don't worry about it. I'm more than fine now.
At that time when you were hearing all this stuff,
Yeah.
especially like you said, it's a brand new like world that you're walking into,
Yes.
which change is always stressful. It's scary. You don't know what's going to happen. And then you have this person that is constantly telling you this.
Yeah.
What were all the feelings that were going on in you?
I mean, there was a level of stress.
I could imagine.
There was a level of stress. Yeah, there was a high level of stress.
And so how did you deal with all that?
I just did my best. I cried a lot, did a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
But a lot of stress. I was constantly stressed, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was constantly stressed. But I just kept... This is when I started to believe in myself. This is when I started to walk the road that would bring me to here today, where I feel like I'm a very confident person. But it was a very difficult road. You have to keep telling yourself, no, I deserve better, and I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. And so you're going through all this.
Yeah.
You deserve better. What were some of the wins that you felt that kind of confirmed that you were on the right road?
Oh my goodness. Just when people would tell me, "Oh my God, you look so happy." When my friends would be like, "You look so happy." When I would just realize that, fuck, I could do what I want.
Yeah.
I could buy myself a new blouse and I don't have someone down my back. "Oh, stop spending money. Nah. Why are you buying stuff for yourself?" I could actually buy myself a nice piece of clothes. I can actually go to lunch with a friend. I can actually go out to dinner after work.
What a crazy, when you think about that now, for me, hearing shit like that, I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't imagine a world where I felt like I couldn't buy something.
Yeah.
On my side, the perspective of it,
Yeah.
it's kind of like shocking at
Well,
times. From
You
my
don't
perspective,
realize
you don't realize
abuse comes in many forms, eh?
that for sure.
Verbal, financial, so many forms. It's, And like freedom, I mean, I'm sorry, but you and your spouse, like I'm sure you have like, you guys have a child. You guys probably have like amazing like confidence within each other, and like you can probably go meet a friend for dinner, and it's whatever.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have that with your significant other, being able to just be you, without there being an issue, without there being like always like a control or.
And so now, okay, so it sounds like all these wins were happening, all these
Yeah.
things, and then you went into what was the next step after? What was kind of like that next where you felt like you found yourself?
I mean, there were a lot of steps. One of them was when one of my cousins, she's a diplomat, and she was stationed
Okay.
in Jordan for a few years.
Okay.
And I remember we were talking, and she goes to me, "Why don't you come meet me?" She goes, "Why don't you come for like 2 weeks?" She goes, I have a diplomatic residence, and you don't need to pay for a hotel, and because Jordan, their currency is like twice the Canadian dollar.
Okay.
Just get yourself on the plane, come here.
What were you thinking? You're like, fuck, do I do this or?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just need it. You just got to get out. I remember when I was going through a divorce, my cousin was living in the Czech Republic at the time. I said, I'm coming over. I'm coming to hang out with you guys. I need to get away from this
Yeah.
like environment, and I just need a new set almost. Like I
Yeah.
just needed a new set.
And I'm like, I never traveled by myself,
Mm.
like alone. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going. If I'm gonna wait for all of my friends, like I'm never gonna go on vacation because this
Yeah.
one's vacation here and this one's vacation and this one's work. I said, fuck this shit. I booked it and I was leaving like 2 weeks after.
How did it feel when you got on that flight?
Oh man, it felt so good. Oh, it felt so
It
good.
feels so good getting on that
That
flight.
vacation was so much fun.
What was so fun about it? What was it? Because I saw your face like light up.
Yeah.
Like literally light up talking about this trip. So what happened on this trip for you to kind of bring out that emotion for you to just instantly like smile,
Well,
light up?
complete freedom. I'm in another country. I'm with my cousin, yes, but there were times where I was by myself. And I am visiting these historical UNESCO sites, these amazing things. Like, how many people have been to Jordan?
Yeah, I know a few, but not many. To
Exactly.
Be honest.
It's not like I'm not going to Mexico. I'm not going to
Yeah.
I was like, I know very few people have been here. I feel like, I'm like, this is like one of the roads less traveled. I'm like, I was so happy.
Yeah.
I was just like, I got to see, like, I got to go into the Dead Sea, and I went to, like, I just got to do all these things. Like, I slept in the desert, and I mean,
It does something for you. That does.
I was sitting on the sand dunes, and I was seeing the camels with the nomads just walk by, and the sun setting, and I took some photos, and I'm there, and I'm like, wow.
It's so funny. That experience, it made me think of when we went to Morocco and we stayed in the desert for a night or two. And to me, the shock of the desert was definitely the dunes and just being completely isolated. But it was at night when there was nothing happening in the skyline. The skyline is insane. I remember looking to my girlfriend and the other couple, because we were two couples that went to Morocco together. And I was just like, I'm 30, whatever it was, 38. And it's the first time I saw the sky. It's the first time you really fully see the sky for what it is.
Where you were, did you see a lot of shooting stars?
Oh my God. It was crazy.
I know.
The shine of the stars. It was a trip just looking at it.
I
Like
know.
it was more enough. I didn't want to go to sleep because a part of me was like, I know I'm never going to really see this again till I come back to an area that can be something similar to this. But I mean, you just look at it and you're in shock of like, oh my God, this is what people used to see every single night till like electricity.
Right?
It's like this is a show. This
Yeah.
literally was like the best theater you could ever have in your life.
It was insane, and it was like living something that, like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like I had never lived this before, and it was like, for me, it was complete freedom, because fuck this shit. I'm my own person. I don't need anybody telling me that I can't buy this blouse, or I can't go here, or I can't get a better job because you don't want to be outshined. Like,
Yeah.
So that's when I started really more and more living in my power. Like, I can do whatever the fuck I want.
That's great. Like
I don't.
that it sometimes when I hear these stories, because it happens so often. Like you hear this story so often that it's, because as a guy, we have different issues or challenges of that idea of like feeling our power, whatever it is. but the constant story, it's a very consistent one of like I hear, let's say, a lot of girlfriends or women that I've spoken to, that element of just like their own voice.
Yeah.
It's really like overpowered or like just really taking it, like I don't know, it's just silenced for so long that it comes out in like their 30s, because their whole life there's just always been someone telling them, don't do this, be
Exactly.
that, and then all of a sudden you get in a relationship, there's another person telling you, don't do this, don't do
Yeah.
that. So it takes like almost 2-3 decades to realize, like, holy fuck, I can actually speak. I have a voice. This
Yeah.
is pretty fucked up. Like that. How old were you when you went on this trip?
30. Wait, it's before the pandemic. 33, I'm going to say.
Okay, so you're 33 years old, and you just said that was where you felt like you found your voice
Yeah.
for the first time. Like it's mind-boggling at times when I hear stories like this.
Yeah.
So you find your voice. You're in Jordan.
Yeah.
How do you transfer back to Montreal? Because now that's like vacation mode.
Yeah.
I know even for me, I was partying. I was having a great time in Czech Republic. Come back home, and I'll never forget, I put my keychain where I always thought the keychain
Yeah.
was, and it wasn't there anymore because my ex had taken it. So I was like, boom, the keys fell on the floor. I was like,
Oh, reality.
oh, fuck,
Yeah.
reality check.
A new reality.
A new reality. But it was kind of like, I am going through a divorce. Like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
real. Like I have to go through this now. Like
Yeah.
fuck.
But
Vacation
no.
life is great, but like I kind of have this divorce now I got to deal with.
When I came back like, how can I say, with like a spring in my step.
Yeah.
I came back like
Same.
better. Like kind of like, okay, like, fuck, I can get on a plane and go halfway across the world, and some of my friends originally were a little bit very worried that I was going in the Middle East. Okay.
Yeah.
Jordan is the most quiet neighborhood in,
Neighborhood.
in the city, let's say. But, you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
So, I mean, I was alone, traveled all the way there. I came back all by myself. And I said, I can do this. I can do anything.
Mm.
I can leave an unhealthy marriage, someone that I was with for 10 years, and I can go and do this. I can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it just takes time for you to, it just took me more time, obviously, because, you meet new people, new friends, new relationships. And in time, like, you need to still, I'm not going to say your boundaries are still tested, and you still have a lot of testing, and you still have a lot of things to do. Like, you still have to, break certain habits and affirm yourself. But I mean, like, it was really one of the big steps towards that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, what were some of those steps after that you kind of realized after the new relationships, this new idea, and then you had walked into fashion, I think, at that point. Is that when you kind of...
I had studied fashion.
Okay.
And as I was studying fashion, I simultaneously was in the makeup and photo shoots, and I kind of like got it messed up, kind of all mingled up together at that point. And then I went to work in the fashion industry. So I started in the fashion industry in 2008. Yeah, 2008. So I was still working in the fashion industry, working my way up. And when I was in Jordan, I was at the place that I just basically, like, the last place I was at. Because I was there for 5 years. But it's like they saw me evolve. Like, the people I worked with, they saw me evolve. When I started working there, I was like freshly getting used to my new life, like, split. Because, there's a period of transition when you're divorcing. Like, we had more than one property. We had the revenue property. So we had to... get those
paperwork to be done.
There was a lot of, like, I had to deal with, like, the properties that had to be put for sale, and there was a lot of that. So there was a lot of bureaucracy around our divorce that had to be done, let's say, before we finalized, because obviously, like, we got everything done by 2020, peak of the pandemic. We actually got a divorce officially done with a lawyer. We actually did on FaceTime because they couldn't meet us. But I mean, everything passed, and
Was that better, actually?
At that point, I didn't care.
Okay. Had it been how many years at that point, the separation?
I left in 2018. At this point, it was over 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Yeah, it was 2.5.
Yeah, it changes. There's a very different tone from the first few months to 2 years later.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that time, right before the pandemic, I was in a relationship that, the point of that relationship was to be serious. But, down the line, you realize that the other person, it's not that they're not serious, but they have so many issues with themselves that a person can only meet you as far as they've met themselves, right? And when you realize that you are evolving as a person, and you're going, you're evolving, and this person is just staying stuck there, You come to a point where you're like, okay, this doesn't work anymore. But
Yeah.
I had to set my boundaries, and I had to like call it quits. And it hurt, because there's all this attachment and there's family attachment and all that stuff. But I had to break free from it because there was still a bit of a pattern.
Yeah.
There was still a bit of a pattern. Each time you meet someone, the pattern is supposed to be less and less evident, but it's still supposed to be there until you actually break it.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of that pattern still. And
What was the pattern? Like, what were what were some of the signs that were telling you, okay, fuck, I'm in that pattern again. I'm falling into it.
Someone who promises you things just to tell you what you want to hear.
People pleaser, in a sense.
In a way, but like kind of like, but it only does or wants things that favor him. So there was a lot of like, or like moving the goalpost.
Got it.
So there was a lot of things like that, like manipulative tactics that were just to please him. And like, me, I wanted certain things. And I was at a point where, because at that point in my life, I wanted another baby. So for me to do that, I wanted to like get married, moved in and everything. And he was saying he did. But then when came to the point of, okay, I'm not going to renew my lease, let's get a place. Then it was like manipulating facts. And then, we can't move, blah, 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 blah. And then your instincts know. You're like, okay, this is so fucking shady.
Yeah.
This is
there's something here that's it's never going to
shady.
happen.
I'm like, so I just had to accept it. It took me a while to accept it because I was still finding my strength. And I was still, today, I would just be like, bye, fuck off. But, I was still not strong enough. But, I got there. I ended it, obviously. But it's like that pattern of like someone promising you things.
Yeah.
And not delivering.
And so, okay, question I'm going to ask is, there's the element of someone promising you, but do you feel that part of the pattern is that you need the promise?
Possibly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but part of that also was for me to tell myself, I don't need anybody to promise me anything anymore.
Okay.
Because whatever I want, I can do it for myself.
Got it. Because I was going to say, because
yeah.
a lot of times I used to think of certain things, like when I think of patterns that I kind of fall into, is I noticed that I'm like, hold on a second, but I'm expecting this.
Yes.
So there's also my pattern is my expectations.
There's so much self-reflection.
Yeah, like I started realizing like, okay, yes, I would like this. I get that.
Yeah.
This is what I would want. But sometimes I realized I never said exactly what I wanted. So I'm assuming you had to understand me, So that was a pattern that I started recognizing, like, okay, hold on a second. I can't be mad at someone completely. I'm not saying that they didn't do anything, but I couldn't be mad at them completely and just like, it's all them without saying, fuck, I never said what I wanted either. Maybe my problem is clarity. Like, how do I be a little more clear about what I want next?
Yeah.
And now if they don't want that or anything like that, whatever, now I know that it's just not for me. But that was a pattern that I was noticing about myself. Although I noticed certain patterns that were affecting me, I noticed that one was one about me.
But I mean, 100%, like half of the things that you go through are like, they stem from you. Because you would never accept this type of treatment if you felt better about yourself. You would never, so like if you're getting all these miscommunications, it's because in the end you're also or you're miscommunicating.
Yeah.
Or you're misunderstanding or, So yeah, there was so much self-reflection and there was so much like, okay, if I want better, I need to do better too.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a lot of that.
So now you were telling me you had worked also in fashion at that point.
Yeah,
you're getting over the marriage. You're finally finding your feet. You found this other person. Doesn't go so well. It's a second. This is another person, or this was your ex-husband, the conversation about another baby?
No, that was another person.
Okay, that was another person.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like there was another crossroads, I remember, that hit again. There was another like realization after this relationship. What happened?
Well, I mean, after this, it was more like, okay, like I worked a lot more on myself and on what I deserve. And you have to believe in what you deserve. You can't let people treat you less. So I mean, there was a lot of me working on that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of me like, okay, so let's say I'm even with friends, just now we're talking about romantic, but even with friends, in the last few years, I've seen so many friends exit my life because there were these either patterns or there were these ways of them either speaking to me or treating me that I didn't agree with. And
what were you picking up on? Like, what did you realize that you never realized before?
It often comes down to a bit like it's always a form of disrespect.
Yeah.
And me, I'm like, but now more and more I speak up for myself. So I'm like, listen, I noticed this, I want to talk about it. And it's either so it's I would either get faced with someone who would not like that I'm telling them that's something I don't like.
Yeah.
So then you see that, okay, so
A conflict.
a
It feels like a
conflict.
confrontation
So if I say I don't like something and there's a conflict, it means that somehow you're benefiting from my lack of boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Or there were friends who actually would lie to me and tell me there's nothing wrong, but you know how you sense things in the way they behave?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they block you out of nowhere and then you don't hear from them anymore.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of that, and it kind of hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt for a while. Like it hurt for a long time. You get over it, and at some point you're like, okay, so it's just like when you see it's all in the behavior. Like I have a very like strong intuition,
Okay.
but most of my life, like I would not believe it. But then I would always end up being my intuition was right and my logic was wrong. If that makes sense.
Yeah, explain a little more.
Like my intuition, like I would feel, like say that I was like, say with my ex-husband, I felt, okay, like this is sketchy, or he's not being nice to me, or he's not treating me well. I felt it.
Yeah.
But then I would rationalize myself. Oh no, but it's okay. You have to understand. You have to give people, you have to forgive them, blah, blah, blah. But, had I trusted my instinct that this isn't right, then I may have saved myself from all the rest. But those are your lessons.
Yeah. That gut feeling, I've said this many times before in the past too, is just, for me personally, I feel like the gut feeling is the truth. It's the truth. And then sometimes it's us that doesn't want to accept
Exactly.
the truth, or maybe the truth is too hard to handle and you kind of avoid it. It's an avoidance. But it's so hard to verbalize the feeling.
It is. And then you're like, well, I have no material
Yeah.
proof.
I'm just feeling something.
Yeah.
Something is off.
And usually it's right.
And usually and you know what? Right even is so subjective because it's just not right for you, or something is right.
Meaning the feeling meant that there was something off in this situation.
In this situation, right? So you look at it, and I agree. Like that's something that over time I've started to kind of say, okay, this gut feeling is not something I need to not listen to. It's the opposite. I need to just be a little more aware of what's triggering that feeling.
Yeah.
Like what is telling me that something is wrong here? And so sit back for a second, do whatever it is you need to do to relax. Like if you want to smoke a J and think about it, do it. You want to have a drink and it's going to help you just to kind of chill a bit for a second. I'm not saying get drunk, but it's that, no, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you've got to find a spot where you feel like you relax. If it's meditation, whatever it is, and you just sit back and say, what the fuck happened? Like what just happened? Like why did I feel so much like shit?
Yeah.
And so for me, some of the stuff that I do, like I like to go for a drive, to be honest. Like I'll go for a drive and literally just start kind of almost verbalizing it out loud. Like, why am I mad? Like I would even ask myself like this question out loud, like Stef, like what's happening? Why are you so annoyed right now? And then it would be like, fuck it. Okay, this happened. Okay, but how did that happen? Okay, and then I kind of like break it down in that layer. And then I realize like, it's because I feel like shit about this. It's like, and then you kind of know, like, okay.
But do you know how much introspection that takes?
Oh my God.
Do you know the average person that walks around can't do that?
I know, but, and to be honest, I never was able to do that for a very long time till I got divorced.
I think you had to face so much discomfort.
Yeah, you have to feel so.
That's what the universe does. It puts you in such discomfort that you have no choice to face your bullshit.
You know what it was? It was also, I think it was the unveiling of bullshit too.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, it was like, I don't think anyone ever goes and gets married and says, oh, we're planning on getting divorced in the next few years, right? So you don't see that coming. You see it maybe, but you don't really see it. I don't know. It's like a weird thing where, I don't know, like maybe you kind of know, but you don't know. I don't know. So when that happens, like a bit of the fairy tale ends for a second. And then all of a sudden you're kind of like, wait a minute. It's not the end of the world. It's just that story, maybe it was a bit bullshit that you bought that, it's always going to be good. You and your wife are always going to be happy and all this bullshit. So I found for me, that was kind of like a wake up call of like, what other like bullshit
story.
Yeah, what other bullshit stories am I telling myself?
Or was I programmed to believe?
Yeah,
Well, same thing for me. So all that stuff. But like, that's how you realize like you should, you really need to believe in yourself. And when you have a feeling about something, you need to look at how you can do something about it or trust it.
Yeah.
And it took me time. So I was saying I lost a bunch of friends. In the end, I guess it's what the universe wanted,
Yeah.
And now when I have a feeling about something, I find the best way to verbalize it depending what it is. If it's just a feeling that, about, like, if it's just me, okay, then I will not trust this person. I will not trust the situation.
Yeah.
And if I'm with someone else and gives me a wrong feeling about either what they said, I will immediately either confront them or tell them that I don't like that. And then then you see what happens.
How do you how do you tend to look at a feeling? Because a feeling could also trick you, right? Like this is the I find what's crazy about feelings is that it's a feeling. It's not always the truth, but it's a feeling. So what are your kind of like? Do you have some sort of like litmus test to know?
I kind of like separated, like when it gives you, like when it's feelings like anger, whatever, that's your ego. But when it's your intuition, it's gonna come without a feeling,
Got it.
like without like an emotion,
Yeah.
without an emotion attached to it.
Okay.
And the past years, I've had to like learn to put my ego aside
Yeah.
and be like, okay,
Fuck, is that tough?
oh my God. But then once you do it, you realize how much easier a lot of things are.
Yes.
And like how much, like, I'm sitting in front of a situation and I'm like, okay, look, it's not about me being upset that this happened. It's about I want to understand what was the, like, why did you, like, what's the behavior behind it? And
Yeah.
like, I put aside the ego and like, okay, what's the behavior behind this? Because if this can't be fixed, like I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Like it's a really, and a lot of people have trouble setting those two apart.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay. So now you finally start separating the ego,
Yeah.
feelings, intuition.
Yeah.
And where did that lead you? Kind of walking into this world where you're kind of okay. We have a little sound. There's a calendar event showing up. So that threw me off a little. What was the question?
You
said
said
what?
you're walking into this world.
Yeah,
Something.
you're walking into this world now where you feel like you have some tools to help you gauge kind of what the fuck is going on in your life.
Well, I mean, when it came to work, I was at that job like for 5 years. So within those 5 years, I grew a lot, right? So
Yeah.
within the team, my growth showed a lot professionally. I was a lot more present, confident, skilled, like confident in my skills and in my experience. And in my personal life, it just led me to make better decisions.
Yeah.
And make better connections and to just, meeting people and just like connecting with new people and meeting new people, and new doors would open. And it kind of just led me to, and it just helped, how can I say, just kept helping me like believe in myself.
Yeah.
And exactly.
And so now, okay, I feel like we did a whole story getting so close to where we are today.
Yeah.
So what are you working on today?
So
Like what are you excited about today? Maybe is the better question.
I'm very excited.
I'm so excited right now.
So I'm working on a lot of little projects, and I'm working on a big one. So after taking all that time off, because it took me a long time, I would say a good 5 to 6 months till I actually feel normal and excited, back to being like what Alex is supposed to be, or like the essence of Alex.
Yeah.
And then once I worked through that, I eventually, with my doctor's advice, I eventually resigned from my position because I didn't feel aligned anymore with that type of industrial work. I didn't feel anymore aligned with that type of mentality and working so hard. And I felt more aligned with expanding in terms of like art side, artistic sides. So I am right now, I'm still working a lot with Vertical Productions in Brockville. So I work on all her photo shoots. I am her main a model basically for her advertising. And I'm working on my personal projects. I'm working on selling digital products, graphic design, things like that on my end. I am working on collabs with all kinds of people.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things in the works.
So when you say collabs, like what kind of collabs?
Like, I work with like I'm gonna be doing like a photo shoot with a photographer, and then I'm getting like my makeup, because usually I do my own makeup.
Okay.
I'm getting my makeup done with just other makeup artists. It's just expanding
The network.
And it's just like more networking. I am very excited. I am moving in July.
Yeah, you were saying.
I'm moving in July into a much bigger place in which I will be. I'm not gonna divulge all the secrets, but there's gonna be a photo studio involved.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you have some fucking awesome pictures. Some of the pictures that you post up online.
Thank you.
It's kind of like explain maybe the ideas and the concepts behind the pictures and how that all started?
I mean, are you talking about the ones that are mostly like in bedroom setups or
Well,
with
there's
the
a
window?
mix, right? There's a
Yeah.
bedroom, there's like the pinup model idea. There's
Yes.
all
Yeah.
these there, and you have a specific look going in a sense.
Yes.
So where did that come from?
That look came from, I would tell, I've been sporting a version of this look ever since I'm like 18.
So what happened? Like what happened to kind of want to go down this avenue of this look of that pinup idea and the over the top, like, because it's awesome. I love it. Like,
Thank you.
Like to me that's what attracted me was, wow, someone really. I felt when I saw the pictures is someone really believes in what they do, and I find you could always see that.
Thank you.
Instantly, like you just know, maybe because even like playing music, you would just hear someone play or you'd watch and you just say someone believes, like
Yes.
they really believe they're a rock star, or they really, and that's not a bad thing, that's a great thing because
Yes.
you need that confidence.
Well, you need to be confident in yourself. If you're not going to root for yourself, who's going to root for you?
Exactly, right? So if you don't think you're a rock star, then who the fuck is gonna think you're a rock star?
Exactly.
So when I saw the pictures, I was like, she thinks she's a rock star. This is awesome. I like that.
I'm a fucking rock star.
You know what I'm saying? Like I felt that. Like I saw the picture, I said, man, she really believes what she does. So how did that start? Like that confidence in that persona, if you want to call
You know,
it, or
like-
is it even a persona?
I mean, somewhere along, like I said, it started many years ago, but somewhere along, like obviously I got lost. And then somewhere along the line, I would say mid-pandemic, I was, early pandemic, I was off work for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was moving. So I was moving from being temporarily my parents into my new place, which was my first like living alone apartment post-divorce. Painted everything pink. Okay? Honestly, looks like a magazine. I love it. Like
That's
everything
amazing.
pink, furniture pink, everything pink, like stripes, and it's like super in love with my apartment. So I moved there, and then so I'm doing this. I'm like affirming my independence. I am doing my space my way.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna tell me that they don't like shit. I don't give a fuck. It's my place, and I had a lot more free time. So I start doing activities that are outdoors. So I start like, okay, so you go to the lavender fields, you take photos, and then like I've always been extravagant in my clothing choices or, colors. I love colors, and
Yeah,
I've always
I could
colored.
tell.
I've always colored my hair.
Amazing.
I've always wear colored clothes.
Yeah.
I've always been like very, out there. I don't want to be like everybody else, and
Yeah.
I also don't want to have like a big fucking brand stamped over my forehead. Like I don't believe in that. And so I would go, okay, so we would go to the lavender fields on a Tuesday morning with my friend and my daughter because, there was nothing else to do but outdoor activities. So I started trying ice creams and I started trying to go to flower fields and I would go for picnics. And then, fuck it. I get dressed. And then we make an aesthetic. So then we started making an aesthetic. You bring a bottle of champagne, you bring a teacup, and then you start taking photos. You make the best of it.
Yeah.
And then I started posting. It became a bit like a blog. It was just kind of happened naturally.
Were you having fun?
Yeah,
Isn't it crazy?
I was having fun.
You bring in all this shit and you're like, I'm having a great, like,
I was
feeling.
having summer 2020. I was having the time of my life.
Okay.
I was going, and people would call me. Let's say some companies were reopened. You have a nice life, huh? You're always out. I would hear this all the time.
You sound like one of the ants calling. You're having such a great time. I want your life.
Exactly.
How come I can't have
I
your
would
life?
get phone calls from people for whatever projects. You have a nice life, huh? You're always out.
They're so happy for you. But
They were like me. I have to go back to work. You're always out. But my company, they closed. What do you want me to say? I was out for 6 months.
Yeah.
And plus the daycares were closed.
It's true.
So I took my daughter everywhere.
Yeah.
We just went everywhere. So then I started. I'm the ice cream queen.
Yeah. Definitely.
I know all the ice cream spots. I had to start my own blog because it was too much on my page. So I started my own ice cream blog. So then, that's what you do in the summer. You get ice cream. So I got ice cream everywhere. And then I was doing whatever was nice. I would go and I take photos. So then a lot of people say, oh my God, so cool where you're going. I can't believe you're in Montreal. And I would go like to this park and I'd find this cool spot. And I don't know, dressed up because that's what I did. I had nothing else to do. So dress up, do your makeup, and you go take photos in the park.
That's fun.
Picnic, just for fun. And then photographers started saying, hey, I'd love to do a collab. Hey, I'd love to do a collab. So then you start, and I was working in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
I had a lot of clothes that were either samples that I got cheap. Like I have a very big wardrobe. I start putting stuff together, funky photos, colored photos. Then there was like this expo. Then we took photos in front of this thing. And then ça découle. It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love what you're doing. Oh my God, I love what you're doing. Oh my God, I love seeing you like this. You look so happy. Nah, 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 nah. And then like another photographer, and then another photographer. And then
And the snowball effect.
it snowballs.
And it's so crazy that you start doing something and you kind of just starting off with fun, and then you see that people are starting to connect with it and resonate with it.
Yeah.
It inspires you to want to keep going.
And then, okay, I go back to work, but still I was working 4 days a week. So I still had that one extra day where I would go like, do this, and I would go do that. And then, Halloween came, and then I would say on Montreal blog or on all these blogs online, these places, like let's say this event for Halloween, and every week I was going to something.
Yeah.
And at some point, Montreal blog starts contacting me. Can we use your photos for this? Can we use your photos for that? One of my ice cream photos, got like went viral. Like I was holding up, it was at the Blue Boy. It's
Okay.
a pineapple bowl. No, watermelon bowl. It's a watermelon bowl.
Okay.
There's like 3 types of ice cream plus candy plus fruits plus. It's like this.
A diabetic's dream.
And I'm wearing a yellow dress, bright pink hair, and I'm the wall is blue, and I'm holding the watermelon like this, and it goes like on all the blocks. Everybody's texting me, "Is this you? Is this you?" Like, actually, it is me. And it just like, people start recognizing me for my colors, for my
Yeah.
colorful, and then my feed is colorful, and it just like,
How did it feel that finally you, like, because it feels like you were finally being recognized for the
Just
Alex,
being me.
maybe, no, but the one that you saw
Yeah.
in your mind. Like,
Or
how did
just
that
being
feel to
me.
kind of like, people were connecting with what you were actually being you, right?
well, I felt good.
Yeah.
And in a way, I'm like, oh, so I must be doing something right.
Well, it's,
Because I'm reaching out to people, and they feel it makes them feel good.
well, it's also because you're not even pretending to be someone.
I'm not.
So I think that's what makes it feel even better, is that you weren't like a fake Alex doing this stuff. This
No.
is like you doing what you really wanted to do this whole time.
Yeah.
And it's fucking resonating.
Yeah.
So it's like, it kind of like, did it, I don't know, I guess give that confidence to listen to that gut more?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It all comes together.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I'm like, yeah. Like I went from those darker days where I was always wearing probably black or gray when I was married. No joke. I was always wearing dark colors.
Yeah.
To the Alex that, when I was younger, I used to wear bright colors. I used to make my own clothes in high school. I used to dye my hair green. Like I was definitely like, I'm a color girl. I've always been a color girl.
Yeah.
And I think it's deep within, encrusted in my soul that, color is for me. Like people ask me, what's your favorite color? I'm like, it's glitter. Because,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what it is. So yeah, I mean, but in the end, you have to trust yourself. Like you really have to like, what makes you happy? And if you do what makes you happy, somehow it's going to bring you on the right path.
Somehow.
But you have to trust the process, and you have to do things that are aligned, like you align with your soul.
What did you start kind of realizing were certain things that you, like those are kind of like your values, let's say, if you want to call them, or that alignment. What were some of those pieces that really helped you define what alignment means to you?
Alignment means that I shouldn't be burnt out.
Okay.
Alignment means that I should be able to come home at night, spend time with my daughter, and not be short, and not be exhausted,
Yeah.
and not be overwhelmed. And alignment means that I should be able to come home, spend time with my kid, and like be able to maintain like a normal household. Not come home and so overwhelmed and depressed and like always being short with your kid. And my daughter, like she felt it. She barely saw me, and she was always kind of like, she was kind of reacting
Yeah.
to my shortness, to me being like very like dry and impatient. I could see her reacting to it, and I see her today. She's so much better.
Yeah.
Like I see a huge difference. And I mean, I would pick her up from daycare like at 5:30, and she'd have to be in bed by 7:30.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
make that happen?
Yeah.
How do you make that happen?
And there's like there's so much time, not like there's only so much time. In those 2 hours, you're cooking, you're doing all this other shit. Like you have to get it ready. So when did you really connect in that span of time? You know what I mean? It's so tough.
There's like barely any connection.
Yeah.
And on the weekends, you're too exhausted to even. It was just like a rat race. And then on one day, my friend's like, I think you're completely burnt out. Like there's no more light in your eyes. Like you're so burnt out. So, I mean, that's when I'm like, yeah, I think I have to do something. But it's like you're stressed out. You're afraid. Like, well, how am I going to survive financially? Like, I don't have a spouse. How am I going to make things work? But at some point, you're like, I'm going to make it work. You're just like, I need to take care of me. But you can't pour from an empty cup, an empty jug. You really have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, you're the well, obviously my kid has a father too, but when you're alone and you don't have a partner with you physically.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a necessity. It was absolutely a necessity for me to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's amazing because I love hearing the story of how like there's all this kind of, I don't want to call it baggage, but there's this whole like road kind of that was traveled on, and then ultimately was like it felt like a dead end, and then finally there was like
A
a
rebirth.
rebirth.
It was like it's like the phoenix.
Yeah, it's like you found yourself. But it's kind of, it's so weird, and I can relate to that in so many ways. Of I've given this analogy a million times where for me, because I played music, I felt like my amp, was at 10 for a long time. Like the volume was at 10, and then there was a certain period of my life where it went to 0, and I really felt like the amp was off. It was just autopilot. You're just doing your shit. You kind of
Isn't that the
forget.
worst?
It's the fucking worst. When I look back now, the years that were autopilot, it's kind of like I I I can't say I'm mad at myself because I didn't even know back then.
Like you
you
can't be
can't
mad because you
can't
did the
do
best that you could at that moment.
at that moment. I didn't know what else to do but to just shut off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I found for me that was kind of like when I look back now, like holy shit, it's once you kind of get the volume back to 10,
Yeah.
you're like, I need to protect that 10.
Absolutely.
Like for me, it was like
Yeah.
I need to make sure that this shit's aligned now.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that I really want to be there and I don't want to, and how's this going to have a bigger impact, especially with a family now, like having a kid. What's the impact on this? Like I don't want to bring that shit home, like you were saying.
Yeah.
The stress in the house. Well,
Absolutely.
reduce as much as you possibly can. There's always
Yeah.
stress, whatever, but not make it be the tone of the house.
But could you imagine like being so absent-minded that you're with your daughter, but you're not even there because your mind is just like, yeah, I was on flight mode. Like I was like, I was gone.
Yeah.
I think the last year from summer 2022 was decent, but after that fall all the way into summer 2023, and I did a vacation with my best friends and my daughter, and during that vacation I felt how burnt out I was.
Yeah.
I wasn't even like really enjoying myself, and I wasn't able to like disconnect, and it was really weighing on me like a lot.
Yeah.
And even like my birthday's like on July 1st. It's on Canada Day, and it's usually like it's the middle of the year. It's like summer. It's always a long weekend, or like you have a day off. Like my birthday's always like a great
A good
time. And 2023, my birthday, I didn't even want to do anything. I was like, it was the first time in my life where I was like, I was so not into it. I was so like on the floor. I was like, ugh. And my friends were like, okay, let's just go have dinner. I got myself dressed up. I got myself excited. But it took me like a lot of convincing to get to that point.
Yeah, it wasn't something. It was forced. Like,
It was.
and then you get there and you do the best with it.
Yeah.
But you're not your best self.
No.
You're not your full self, if
No.
you want to call it.
No, exactly.
And so now, okay, like there's just all these projects. Is there something that you said the photo studio at home? That's
Yeah.
something that you're working on. Do you want to talk about that, or that's still kind of in?
Well, listen, I mean,
Well, okay.
I'm
What do you want to say about it, if
Okay.
you want to, or do you want to talk about something else that you're excited about?
well, I mean, this is my big main project because like I feel like I have enough business. I have a lot of business experience. I definitely have what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and I would say the past 2 years, I was seeing things like there's these photo studios that I've worked in. I don't know if you know them, like let's say like Miral or Tella, where they're big spaces.
Okay.
And they have like these subdivided rooms with different themes, and then you rent them out per hour, and then you shoot your content,
Yeah.
all that stuff. I'm like, this is a great concept. I would love to do something like this with an Alex twist. But I'm like, how do I pay my rent, work my full-time job, be a mom, and
Yeah.
how then do I pay a commercial rent while trying to fix up a studio while doing all the rest?
Yeah.
So for a while, for about a year, I had this in my head. I'm like, how do I do all this? At that point, I didn't have a solution. But I'm like, but how do I get this done?
Yeah.
And then one day, some of my best friends, they have a house in La Salle. It's a duplex, so they have tenants upstairs. They have a bachelor downstairs, but in the house, they have like half of the basement is part of the house,
Okay.
the main floor.
Yeah.
They're like, they have a secondary home in Ontario, and they spend a lot of time there. And my friend goes to me, yeah, we're going to start working on The Bachelor. We're going to downsize because we're only 2 people, And she goes, why do we need this big house for anyways? goes, we might as well just rent it out. Comes with a backyard, double garage, like name
You're
it.
like, wait a minute.
And she's like, yeah, we're just gonna, we're in Montreal 3 days a week. We're just gonna use the bachelor, like it's a full functioning apartment, She goes, we never rented it out because whatever. So I'm like, huh, like okay. So then I'm starting to think about it. And talking to one of my friends, I'm like, what do you think? She's like, I think this is your golden opportunity here.
I was about to say, did it happen like almost as you started finally saying, I'm gonna find a way?
Yeah.
And then this just
Yeah.
fucking showed up?
Yeah.
Isn't it all
Yeah.
every story
Yeah.
is like the moment you finally say, I'm gonna get up,
So
just find a way to do it. It's like all of a sudden it's been here this whole time.
So instead of me being afraid, I said to myself, okay, obviously things like this, like, so the rent is more obviously, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it fucking happen. So then as time flies and I'm talking to my friends, so they're like, well, we like the idea of having you versus, a stranger living here, obviously. So, we write up the details, we discuss, and then they also have renovations to do because the unit that they're renovating, it hadn't been used in a long time. So,
Yeah.
they have their own work to do. So I'm like, okay, you guys let me know. So this year, when my lease came up for renewal, this year I had the pleasure of writing, no, not renewing, I'm moving.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So do you have a date expected?
But I mean, it's like for that like that July 1st.
Okay, July 1st?
End of June. And
Okay, cool.
We're going to
So-
make it happen at the end of June, yeah.
That's amazing.
So then obviously, like, there's still the challenges. I need to build the whole area. Like, it's just an empty basement, but I'm going to build the whole area. I'm giving myself about 6 months before I
Yeah.
could start maybe, commercially using it. So maybe not until 2025. Like, I want to be like, reasonable in terms of I can't expect to move in right away and to be ready, but
No, but it's never like that, right? Anyways, whenever you get something, there's the process of putting it together. There's going to be the fuck ups that come along the way. There's going to be the stress nights of putting it all together, but it definitely sounds like it's a personal project.
absolutely.
And that's the shit that makes you stay up and work on
Yeah,
it. But in a
absolutely.
way that's just different. I think people that have worked on personal projects and have had this thing where they're working on something that it's a vision in their mind and they're slowly turning it into reality can relate to that feeling of when you finally kind of go through it. You're like, oh
Yeah.
man, what an amazing feeling this whole process has been. Like
Yeah.
ups and downs, but like seeing it
Yeah.
ready.
Because, okay, so you've seen some of the cool photos that I take with my photographer in
Yeah.
Brockville. So working with her a lot, I've got to understand more how lighting works and all that stuff. And it will never be the same because we're two different animals.
Yeah.
This woman she is like the master of lighting. I have never met a photographer, and all the photographers that I know in Montreal, they all say the same thing. We don't know how she's a master of lighting because
Yeah.
of the way she uses the
great shots.
backdrop.
There's some great
she's
shots.
like, she's honestly like, I know Brockville's like 2 hours away. Man, like, it's worth the drive. Like, she has everything over there. She's amazing. So I learned a lot of things from her, but I also picked up on the way she styles like her own. She does like the whole decor and styling, and I picked up a lot on that, and I mixed that with the knowledge of what I've been seeing in Montreal, and I'm like, I feel like there's space for something that meets kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Somehow I feel like there's a demand for something that is a little bit more versatile, maybe with some more color options. So I have this idea in my head. The idea is pretty original. And it would be in the southwest of Montreal, which there are not that many studios. Most of them are on the plateau or in Antic.
Yeah.
So I am working on this project.
Nice.
And I think that also it's positive for the fact that, Mike's husband, with his life, he has someone in his life now. And for health reasons, he had to move in with somebody because he wasn't doing too good for a while.
Okay.
So he decided to move in with his girlfriend, and now they live in Nuns Island. So, I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
in LaSalle and they're in Nuns Island,
That's not bad.
isn't that better? Like,
Yeah.
that we're close?
Yeah.
So it was like, it was meant to happen.
It usually always, like, all these stories of all these roads, all these fuck ups, everything, and then ultimately, like, it's meant to happen this way. But it's so hard to see that in the moment.
You know what? I had to force myself. You know what? It's going to be okay.
Yeah, you have to. I find there's an element of blind faith.
Yeah.
That you need to have to move past certain things.
But the universe has your back. And ever since I've convinced myself of that, I feel like the universe blesses me all the time.
Yeah.
Like, all the time, I meet the right people. I'm at the right place. The perfect circumstances, everything. So I trust. I trust that the things align for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Look, I think we could talk, like I say this a lot in the podcast. I think we could probably go on and on and on, but
Yeah.
we're coming to the end. What do you want to end off with? Like, do you want to let people know something in specific to follow you, or If there's something, like you're open for collabs, like, well, what are some of the things that you kind of want?
Listen,
or maybe even just something to remember you by, whatever it is.
If anybody likes my look, interested in collaborating, I'm always open. I'm very open, flexible. There could also be something interesting in there. If there are any ladies who feel like they need someone to help them understand that even though you're not perfect, that you are completely worthy of like loving yourself and like a full love like towards yourself and from someone else. You want confidence, follow me. I'm not perfect. I don't have the perfect body, but I don't give a shit. I post myself and I show the world that even though I am not whatever Gigi Hadid or whoever they are, I feel so good about myself, and I think that reflects on the outside. So if you feel like you need that push, if you feel like you need someone to remind you to love yourself, feel free to follow me, Alex Tangerine, on Instagram. And all I would say is like basically just believe in yourself. The universe has your back.
I can't say anything more after that. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alex, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Awesome. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
There we go.
That was a great discussion.
Hey, thanks for checking out the show. It's been awesome working on this project. And if you like it, tell a friend. And if you want to support the show, you can by 1, subscribing and liking our YouTube channel at the DMW Podcast. 2, you can go to our website and sign up to our mailing list at the dmwpodcast.com. And 3, you can follow us on Instagram at the DMW Podcast. Thanks again for all of your support. My name is Stef, and this is the Dead Man Walking Podcast.